Hello, everybody. How are you today? I truly hope that you have had a good day, and I hope everything is going well for you too. I want to take this opportunity to say thank you for being so kind as to tune in to me today as I present another episode of my little discussions. And of course, that's not the title of my show. I'm still working on a title, and I got the feeling I'm going to start it in 2023. But since we only have a few weeks left in this year, I'm just going to go ahead and ride it out as it is. But nevertheless, I'm truly grateful to be with you on today. And I thank you so much for your love and support and everything. And I want to take this opportunity to say welcome to you. Glad that you decided to tune in. So I am going to try to discuss a little something today and try not to be too long. But, it's something that I have been thinking about for the last few days. And quite frankly, I have been wrestling with it because I wasn't sure if I wanted to tackle this topic considering the personal effects it has had on me down through the years. But last night I came to the conclusion that perhaps I should go ahead and face this topic and face it head on. So that's why I decided that I would do it today. And hopefully it'll be a big help to some of you out there. So today I would like to talk for a few minutes about why people look down on those who think. And I tell you, it's something when you come into a place in your life where you're no longer afraid to think outside the box, and like my friend Kyle Butler says, thinking is good. And it really is. And I didn't realize how good thinking was until I became an adult. And I think it was probably as I approached my mid-30s, I was getting close to age 35, when I began to realize that not only is thinking good, but sometimes thinking for oneself, as I have been doing for many years now, can create a bit of a divide between others and yourself. Whatever setting you find yourself in, whether it's in the workplace, it may be in your family, friends, or if you're involved in church or whatever. Once people see that you are a thinker, they tend to look at you differently. They start looking at you sideways, and in many cases they lose respect for you. And I don't know why that is. I mean, they shouldn't. If anything, they ought to have more respect for you because you have the courage as well as the ability to think for yourself and make wise choices about different issues and various matters in your own life. But what I've learned, from even back as far as my 20s, when I was in my 20s and into my 30s and now in my 40s, I've discovered that all the time people are not happy for you. You know, people are not always happy for you when they see that you use your head, you know, and you think for yourself, and you don't necessarily go with the flow, you know, in terms of ideologies and beliefs and teachings and stuff. Because what I discovered at an early age is sometimes you have to go along to get along. I learned that when I was 5 years old. And there's a story behind that, and I may share it in a later video, you know, another time. But I learned that when I was in like in Head Start and kindergarten, you know, that sometimes in order to make it in this world, you have to be willing to compromise who you are, which is very unfortunate. But I've learned better since then. And see, that goes back to what the scriptures say. When I was a child, I thought as a child, and I understood as a child, and spoke as a child, and what have you. But when I became a man, I put away childish things. And that includes the way that we have thought and believed things, you know. And the way I thought and believed when I was a child, I don't believe and think that way anymore. You know, my beliefs and my thinking pattern has changed a lot from age 5 up to now where I am. And I think that's a good thing, because evolving should be a part of everyone's life, you know. But oftentimes we find that most people in society are not interested in evolving, which means to grow and develop, you know, to become a new person, you know, with new thoughts and new ideas and a new understanding of things. But rather, they would much rather prefer to revolve. In other words, they just want to keep on going around and around and around in that same old circle that they've been going around in for the last 35 or 40 years, and has gotten them nowhere. And if you come back in another 35 or 40 years, if they're still around, they will still be going around in that same circle. How unfortunate is that? So once again, my topic is why people look down on those who think. And so I would like to ask you all a question, and that is, why does society fear thinkers? Because when you think about it, you know, the vast majority of people out here are somewhat leery of those who think for themselves. They have a serious problem with that, you know, and if they find out that you're one of those individuals, not only do they shun you, you know, and they back away from you, but if you're not careful, they'll try to use all kinds of scare tactics in order to put you back in your place, because that's what people who tend to operate in a spirit of fear and using all these control mechanisms like to do. They like to make sure that their subordinates remain in check. And let's talk about that, shall we? Thinkers are typically not the most popular people on the planet, especially if they rub others the wrong way by verbalizing their thoughts. I know this all too well. Thinking for myself has landed me in hot water more times than I ever imagined. And as a result, my circle is extremely small. In fact, I think it's safe to say that I have very few friends, or perhaps no friends at all. At least no one who cares to hang around with me. Most of the time, I'm all alone, but that doesn't mean I'm lonely, because in my mind, my circle is huge, and my world is full of fun and excitement. Therefore, I must say that I am content with my life as it is at this present moment, because no matter how much money I make or save, it will never be enough to buy what I've already been afforded, and that is peace of mind. And I will tell anybody that peace of mind is one of the greatest things that anyone could ever have. And there is a saying that goes something like, understanding is the best thing in the world. And it truly is. You know, I learned that at a pretty young age as well. And I'm sure most of you have too. Now, let's get into the 3 reasons why society at large can't stand those who think. Starting with number 1, which is fear. Fear is the motivating factor behind much of what we see happening in this world, from popping pills to spraying bullets. However, when it comes to those who think for themselves, fear is usually the least of their concerns. Truth be told, it's not the people who run their mouth all the time that you have to be afraid of, but rather it's those who say very little, if anything at all. Besides, people who talk a lot generally don't know too much. And because of that, the vast majority of the population are cool with them. On the other hand, the person who sits in a crowded room and says nothing, but instead observes everything and everyone else, that individual is seen as a huge threat, because nobody has a clue as to what is on their mind. And another thing, people fear what they don't understand. And take it from me, because, you know, having lived the experience that I have for these 43 odd years, and considering the number of experiences I've had over these last 43 years, you know, I can truly say that being a thinker, it is a relatively lonely road at times, but it can be a road that leads to a greater sense of joy and peace and prosperity if everything goes in the right way. So I'm content, and I wouldn't trade it for anything in the world. Number 2, challenge. People who are serious thinkers tend to challenge the status quo, causing a major disruption of the agenda that is in place. For example, if you have been in church all of your life, and one day you have an epiphany, which leads you to question everything you've ever been taught, then suddenly you realize that you've been on a misguided path, where you thought that you were going in the right direction, that is, in the direction that the church, your pastor, the members, particularly those whom you put your faith and trust for spiritual guidance, only to discover that you were lost like a needle in a haystack. It is at such a moment when you start fighting and going against all the religious rhetoric, even to the point of walking out on sermons, Sunday school classes, and if and when it comes down to it, letting the entire religious establishment go all together. And I've been there. I have been in each and every one of those situations. I have walked out on, I think, all of my pastors that I've had in the past while they were preaching. I have walked out tipped out of Sunday school classes, and I have, I've hung up in people's faces, including family members. You get to a point where you just don't care anymore. You don't want to keep on going in circles. Sometimes you get to the point where, and y'all know I try to be nice on here, but sometimes, you got to keep it real too. Like a couple of people on TV that I've been watching these last few days, and I'm not going to call any names. If you've been watching the news, you probably already know who I'm talking about. But, they have gotten to the point where, they don't give a damn anymore as to what others think. And that's like this song by blues legend Lattimore. He says, my give a damn gave out a long time ago. And that's where you find yourself when you become a thinker. You don't worry about what other folk gonna say about you and what they think and how they're gonna react, because it's your life and you got to live it on your terms. That is one of the benefits of being a thinker. And so I take pride in that myself. I really do. And number 3, accountability. Once you become a thinker, you are now accountable for your own lack of knowledge. It's no longer on those whom you looked up to your whole life. No longer can you blame anyone for what it is that you don't know. Being a thinker causes one to take responsibility for his or her own education and enlightenment. They have come to realize that they are the captain of their own ship, and nothing and no one can hold them back but themselves. Thinkers are real movers and shakers, in that as soon as they open their mouth, thereby moving their lips, that's when the atmosphere in which they find themselves begins to shake. Meaning that the people around them who are still ignorant and lost, not willing to research anything or question anything they have been taught, are usually reluctant to take responsibility for their own enlightenment, and as a result, they tend to come down hard on those who do. They simply do not want to be held accountable for anything. And I am pretty sure that there are many of you out there who are aware of someone who is like that, who is afraid to take responsibility for their own actions. And they don't want to think, because thinking leads to learning, and learning leads to being accountable for certain actions and decisions that one makes in their life. And so those are 3 of the reasons why most people in society tend to look down on those who think, and they are very unwilling to think for themselves. Once again, I want to thank you for tuning in, and I tell you, those are my thoughts on thinkers. And I consider myself blessed and privileged to be among those who are awake and is a thinker. There are a lot of people in the woke community, and I consider myself fortunate to be numbered among them. But just because you're woke doesn't mean that you're better than anybody else, because when we're woke, it's sort of, we got to try to help somebody else wake up as well, if it's meant for them to wake up, because not everyone wakes up at the same time. So tell me what you think. Are you a thinker? Do you like to, learn new things? And are you awake? Would you consider yourself woke? Let me know in the comments section or inbox me or feel free to email me at tjharris1979@yahoo.com. And I will be more than happy to reply to you, okay? And I'm sorry if I went too long, but this was very important. This was wrestling in my spirit for the last few days, and I just had to release it. And I'm thankful that I did. So, again, I want to take this time to say thank you for watching. Be sure to tune in next time when I present another episode. Hopefully, one that will enlighten you and offer you a sense of empowerment and encouragement as well. Not to mention entertainment, because I love to make people laugh and feel good. I am Taryn Jerome Harris, and I hope you have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.